The Artist's Touch. Marcus Chen stood at the viewport of his studio aboard Artemis Station, watching streams of quantum particles dance through the crystalline clay beneath his fingers. The material had cost him 3 months' commission fees and endless paperwork to import from the Meridian systems, but as he felt the subtle vibrations pulse through his palms, he knew it had been worth every credit. The studio itself was a testament to humanity's adaptability in space. What had once been a standard cargo bay now housed an array of sculpting tools, both traditional and experimental. Holographic designs flickered along the walls, while anti-grav platforms held works in various stages of completion. The air carried the familiar scent of mineral dust and ionic cleanser. Artist Chen, your presence is requested at the main airlock. The station's AI announced, its voice carefully modulated to avoid startling him. Marcus sighed, carefully setting down the quantum clay. Who is it this time? ARIA. Another collector who simply must have a piece for their private gallery. Negative. The visitor is uncategorized, species unknown. That got his attention. Artemis Station served as a hub for dozens of known alien civilizations, but an unknown visitor was rare enough to be noteworthy. Give me 5 minutes to clean up. He quickly sealed the quantum clay in its stasis field and ran a sonic cleaner over his hands. The dark particles that had settled into his skin's creases stubbornly remained, a badge of honor among sculptors who worked with exotic materials. The walk to the airlock gave him time to compose himself. As he rounded the final corner, he stopped short. Floating in the reception area was a being that seemed to be made of living crystal, its translucent form refracting the station's lights into complex patterns that shifted with its movements. I am Zixra. The being's thoughts resonated directly in Marcus's mind, accompanied by subtle color changes within its crystalline structure. Your work with quantum-sensitive materials has drawn my attention. Marcus bowed slightly, a gesture he'd found worked well with most species. Welcome to my studio, Zixra. I'm honored by your interest. Honor is irrelevant. What matters is capability. The crystal being's colors darkened. I require something that has never been attempted. A fusion of human creativity with quantum crystalline matrices. Our observations suggest that human emotional states can influence quantum fields in ways our science cannot explain. That's quite a statement. Marcus crossed his arms, studying the play of light through his visitor's form. And what makes you think I'm capable of such a thing? Because you already do it, unconsciously. Zixra projected an image into Marcus's mind. One of his recent pieces, a swirling abstraction in quantum clay that seemed to capture the essence of joy itself. The quantum patterns in this work should be impossible according to our understanding of physics. Yet you achieved them through what you call artistic intuition. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. He'd known the quantum clay responded unusually well to his touch, but he'd attributed it to experience and technique. The idea that he was manipulating quantum fields through emotion alone was both thrilling and terrifying. What exactly are you proposing? The crystal being's colors shifted to deep blues and purples. I wish to commission a work that will serve as a bridge between our species' understanding of reality. But more than that, I need you to teach me how humans transform emotion into quantum resonance. I'm not sure that's something that can be taught, Marcus said carefully. Our artistic process is highly individual and often intuitive. Then show me. Zixra's form pulsed with intensity. Show me how humans turn feeling into form. How you capture the ephemeral in the eternal. My people have mastered quantum engineering, yet we cannot create works that sing to the soul as yours do. Marcus ran a hand through his dark hair, leaving a faint smudge of quantum clay on his forehead. The request was unprecedented, possibly dangerous, and definitely beyond the scope of his usual commissions. It was exactly the kind of challenge he'd come to space hoping to find. I'll need to know more about your people's quantum engineering, he said finally, and we'll have to establish some safety protocols. Working with quantum fields can be unpredictable. Agreed. Zixra's colors brightened. When can we begin? Marcus glanced at his studio door. then back at the crystalline being. No time like the present. But first, I need to understand something. Why me? There are other artists working with quantum materials. Because you do not merely shape the clay, Marcus Chen, you speak to it. And more importantly, it speaks back. As they walked to his studio, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that he was about to either make the greatest breakthrough of his career or cause an interstellar incident. Possibly both. The quantum clay in its stasis field seemed to shimmer in response to their approach, as if recognizing a kindred quantum consciousness in HFY. The universe, Marcus reflected, had a peculiar way of bringing the right elements together at the right time. He just hoped he was ready for whatever this collaboration might unleash. Resonance in stone. The first attempt at combining human artistic technique with crystalline quantum engineering nearly blew out half the power grid on Artemis Station. Marcus stood amid the aftermath, his hands trembling slightly as he stared at the smoking remnants of what had been a simple test piece. Emergency containment fields hummed softly around the studio, their blue glow reflecting off HFY's crystalline form. Fascinating. The alien's thoughts resonated in Marcus's mind. The quantum resonance patterns are unlike anything in our databases. That's one word for it, Marcus muttered, picking up a fragment of the failed sculpture. Even now, hours after the incident, he could feel it vibrating with residual energy. We need to understand what went wrong before we try again. Wrong. HFY's colors shifted to a puzzled yellow-green. The interaction was far more powerful than anticipated, yes, but the fundamental principle is sound. Your emotional state directly influenced the quantum field structure of my people's crystalline matrix. Marcus set the fragment down carefully and nearly overloaded the station's containment systems in the process. We can't risk that kind of reaction again. He paused, studying the intricate patterns that had formed in the remnants. Though I have to admit, the effect is beautiful. The patterns weren't just random fractures. They formed complex, recursive designs that seemed to capture the very moment of the energy surge. Like lightning frozen in crystal, they told the story of that brief, dangerous intersection between human emotion and alien quantum mechanics. Beauty from chaos, HFY observed. Perhaps that is what we've been missing. Our approach to quantum manipulation has always focused on precision, control, mathematical perfection. But human creativity thrives on uncertainty, does it not? Marcus nodded slowly, an idea forming. We've been going about this backward. Instead of trying to force human artistic techniques to conform to your quantum engineering principles, we should be adapting your materials to work with our natural creative process. Over the next few days, they experimented with different combinations of quantum clay and crystalline matrix, carefully documenting the resonance patterns that emerge. Marcus found that his emotional state while working didn't just influence the materials. It created entirely new quantum configurations that HFY's people had never observed before. It's like a conversation, Marcus explained one evening, his hands moving delicately over a small test piece. I'm not trying to control the quantum fields. I'm listening to them, responding to them. The art emerges from that dialogue. HFY's form pulsed with interest. Show me. Marcus closed his eyes, letting his fingers dance across the surface of their latest experiment. He thought about the first time he'd seen Earth from space, the mixture of awe and homesickness that had overwhelmed him. The material beneath his hands began to warm, quantum particles aligning themselves in response to his emotional memory. When he opened his eyes, the sculpture had transformed. Within its crystalline depths, a perfect representation of Earth seemed to float, but it was more than just an image. Somehow, the quantum fields had captured the feeling of seeing humanity's cradle from orbit, that profound shift in perspective that every space traveler experienced. Extraordinary, HFY whispered in his mind. The quantum patterns, they're expressing emotional states we didn't know could be quantified. How are you achieving this level of resonance? Marcus shook his head, still amazed by the result. I'm not achieving anything. I'm just feeling and letting those feelings guide my hands. The materials do the rest. You underestimate yourself. Zixra's colors shifted to deep blue. What you call just feeling is actually an incredibly sophisticated manipulation of quantum probability states. You're instinctively doing what our most advanced quantum computers cannot, creating emotional coherence in quantum fields. The implications slowly sank in. You're saying that human creativity, human emotion, it's actually affecting reality at the quantum level. More than affecting it, you're reshaping it, creating new possibilities that our science said were impossible. Zixra moved closer to the sculpture, its crystalline form resonating slightly with the quantum fields. This could revolutionize our understanding of consciousness itself. Marcus sat back, running his clay-stained hands through his hair. And all I wanted was to make pretty sculptures in space. Often the most profound discoveries come from the simplest desires, Zixra responded. The question now is, how far are you willing to take this? Looking at the Earth sculpture, still pulsing with quantum energy that somehow captured the very essence of wonder, Marcus knew there was only one answer. As far as it needs to go. But we do this carefully, methodically. No more accidental power surges. Agreed. Though I must point out that even your accidents are producing remarkable results. Marcus laughed. Let's try not to include that in the official research notes. As they began planning their next series of experiments, Marcus couldn't help but wonder what other impossible things might become possible when human creativity met alien science. The quantum clay under his fingers seemed to wonder too, vibrating with potential just waiting to be unleashed. The hidden pattern. 3 weeks into their collaboration, Marcus noticed something odd about the quantum resonance patterns they were creating. Each successful piece contained subtle recurring structures, like echoes in the quantum field that he hadn't consciously put there. He was studying one such pattern late into the station's night cycle when Zixra entered the studio. You've seen them, haven't you? The crystalline being's thoughts carried an undertone Marcus had never heard before, something almost like grief. The repeating patterns. Yes. Marcus gestured to the holographic analysis floating above his workbench. At first I thought they were artifacts from the quantum field interactions, but they're too consistent. Too deliberate. He turned to face his alien colleague. You knew they would appear. Zixra's colors darkened to deep indigo. They are memories, Marcus. The quantum crystalline matrix contains the last coherent thoughts of my world. The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. Your world. What happened? We called it the resonance cascade. A quantum computing experiment that went catastrophically wrong. Zixra's form flickered with painful remembrance. The damage spread through our quantum communication network, destabilizing the very fabric of our civilization. Those of us who survived did so only by transferring our consciousness into these crystalline forms. Marcus sat heavily in his chair. How many survived? 743, out of a population of billions. The numbers came with a pulse of color so dark, it was almost black. We preserved what we could. Art, science, history, culture, encoding it all into quantum patterns within crystalline matrices. But the patterns are degrading. Within a generation, all that we were, all that we knew, will be lost. Unless you can find a way to stabilize them, Marcus breathed, understanding dawning. That's why you sought me out. My impossible quantum manipulations offer hope where we thought there was none. Zixra moved closer to the sculpture they'd been working on. Your emotional resonance with the quantum fields creates stability patterns we never achieved through pure mathematics. You don't just preserve the information, you make it sing. Marcus studied the patterns with new eyes. What he'd taken for abstract quantum effects were actually fragments of an alien civilization's collective memory. Art, music, poetry, all encoded in the dance of quantum particles. Why didn't you tell me this from the beginning? Would you have approached the work differently if you had known? Would the weight of preserving a civilization's memory have changed how you expressed yourself through the medium? He had to admit Zixra had a point. Artists often did their best work when unburdened by expectations. Still, no more secrets between us. If we're going to save your people's legacy, we need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. Agreed. Zixra's colors shifted to a more neutral blue. The quantum patterns you've already stabilized contain thousands of years of our musical traditions. Would you like to experience them? Marcus blinked. Experience? How? The same way I communicate with you. The quantum resonance can interface directly with your consciousness, allowing you to perceive the encoded memories as if they were your own. The artist in Marcus immediately wanted to say yes, but caution held him back. Is it safe? Safer than our early experiments with the quantum clay, Zixra replied with what might have been amusement. Your mind will only receive what it can comprehend. Think of it as an extremely immersive form of art appreciation. Marcus took a deep breath and nodded. Show me. Zixra touched one crystalline appendage to the sculpture and another to Marcus's temple. The world dissolved into pure sensation as alien music flooded his consciousness. Complex harmonies that existed in more dimensions than human ears could perceive, emotional resonances that defied traditional scales. He experienced centuries of artistic evolution in moments, felt the joy and sorrow of countless alien composers flow through him like a river of pure creativity. When the connection broke, Marcus found himself on his knees, tears streaming down his face. That was a fraction of what we stand to lose, Zixra finished quietly. Now you understand why we came to you. Your art doesn't just preserve our memories. It keeps them alive, vital, capable of touching other souls across the gulf of species and space. Marcus stood shakily, his mind still reverberating with alien symphonies. We'll need more quantum clay. A lot more. And we'll have to find a way to explain the power requirements to station administration without revealing exactly what we're doing. You still wish to help, knowing the true scope of what we're attempting. Marcus walked to his workbench and began preparing fresh materials, his hand steady despite the enormity of the task ahead. Art is about preserving moments, capturing feelings, telling stories that need to be told. The scale might be bigger than I'm used to, but the principle is the same. He looked up at his alien friend. Besides, how often does an artist get the chance to help save an entire civilization's cultural heritage? You understand that much of what we preserve may never be fully comprehensible to humans. The best art doesn't need to be fully understood to be meaningful. Marcus smiled, already feeling new ideas forming in response to the alien music still echoing in his memory. It just needs to make you feel something. Breaking boundaries. The summons to station security came exactly 2 months into their expanded project. Marcus stood before Chief Administrator Reeves, trying not to fidget as the older woman reviewed power consumption logs on her holographic display. Would you care to explain, she said without looking up, why your studio is drawing more power than our primary life support systems? Marcus glanced at Zixra, who hovered silently in the corner, their crystalline form deliberately dimmed. My current commission requires extensive use of quantum stabilization fields. Cut the bureaucratic nonsense, Shen. Reeves finally met his eyes. We've got 3 separate agencies breathing down my neck. The Quantum Technologies Regulatory Board claims you're conducting unauthorized experiments. The Cultural Heritage Protection Office is demanding access to your studio, and the Department of Sinological Affairs has flagged your collaboration with an unknown species as a potential security risk. Administrator, Marcus began carefully, I assure you that our work is purely artistic in nature. Is it? She projected a new hologram, quantum field readings from his studio. These patterns match nothing in our database. You're either creating an entirely new form of quantum engineering, or you're doing something dangerous enough to mask the readings. Neither option fills me with confidence. Before Marcus could respond, Zixra floated forward. The fault is mine. Administrator, I was not fully transparent about the nature of our work. Reeves's eyes narrowed. Go on. Over the next hour, Zixra explained everything. the resonance cascade, the lost civilization, and their desperate attempt to preserve what remained. Marcus watched the administrator's expression shift from skepticism to shock to something approaching wonder. "So the power surges," she began, "are the energy cost of stabilizing quantum memory patterns that contain an entire civilization's cultural heritage." Marcus finished. "We've been trying to optimize the process, but there's no way to do this quietly." Reeves stood and paced to her office's viewport, staring out at the stars. "Do you have any idea what you're risking, Chen? If something goes wrong, if there's another cascade?" "There won't be," Marcus said firmly. "We've developed safety protocols, redundancies. The quantum fields are contained and stable. And the human element, your emotional resonance with the quantum matrices, is the only reason this works at all," Zixray interjected. "Marcus's artistic intuition accomplishes what centuries of our quantum engineering could not. He preserves not just data, but context, meaning, feeling." Reeves turned back to them. "Show me." Marcus extracted a small crystal from his pocket, one of their early successful pieces. "May I?" At Reeves's nod, he placed the crystal on her desk and activated it with a touch. The office filled with an alien lullaby, its quantum-encoded emotions bypassing the ears to speak directly to the heart. Marcus watched as the administrator's stern expression softened, tears welling in her eyes, as she experienced the love of an alien parent for their child across the gulf of species and time. When the song faded, Reeves remained silent for a long moment. Finally, she squared her shoulders. "The power allocations will be adjusted. I'll deal with the regulatory agencies, but I want daily reports, full sensor access to your studio, and a dedicated emergency response team on standby." "Thank you, Administrator," Marcus breathed. "Don't thank me yet." She fixed him with a stern look. "Because if this goes wrong, if you cause any damage to this station or its inhabitants, I'll personally ensure you never work in space again. Are we clear?" "Crystal," Marcus said, then winced at the unintended pun. As they left the office, Zixra's colors shifted to a worried purple. "That went better than anticipated, but she's right about the risks. Perhaps we should." "No," Marcus cut them off. "We're not scaling back. Not now. Not when we're so close to a breakthrough. The power signatures are becoming harder to mask. Others will notice." Marcus smiled grimly. "Let them. Sometimes art needs to make a scene to make a difference." Back in the studio, he found himself drawn to their latest piece, a massive crystalline structure that hummed with quantum potential. Within its depths, the collected poetry of Zixra's people waited to be stabilized, to be made permanent through the strange alchemy of human emotion and alien science. "You understand this will only get more difficult," Zixra said softly. "The administrator's support helps, but there will be others who fear what we're doing, who don't understand." "Good thing I've never been particularly concerned with being understood." Marcus placed his hands on the crystal, feeling the quantum fields respond to his touch. "Art isn't about playing it safe. It's about pushing boundaries, taking risks, believing that what you're creating matters more than what people think about it." The crystal began to glow as he spoke, quantum patterns shifting and stabilizing under his fingers. In its depths, alien words began to take shape, each poem a thread of light in an infinite tapestry of memory and meaning. "Besides," he added with a grin, "when was the last time anything truly revolutionary happened without ruffling a few feathers?" Legacy and light. The day of the exhibition dawned with an unprecedented gathering of species aboard Artemis Station. Representatives from 24 spacefaring civilizations crowded the converted cargo bay that served as a gallery, their varied forms creating a living tapestry of alien diversity. At the center of it all stood Marcus's masterwork, a crystalline spire that stretched from floor to ceiling, its quantum-encoded surfaces catching and refracting the light in impossible ways. Marcus himself stood off to the side, his clay-stained hands fidgeting with the collar of his formal attire. Beside him, Zixra glowed with subtle patterns of anticipation and concern. "Are you certain about this?" the crystalline being asked telepathically. "Once we activate the full quantum resonance, there's no turning back. The pattern will either stabilize across all the pieces simultaneously, or we create the biggest light show this side of the galaxy," Marcus finished. "But it will work. The test runs proved the concept." Test runs are one thing. Linking together every piece we've created, trying to stabilize the entire collected memory of my civilization at once. Zixra's colors shifted anxiously. "The power requirements alone are staggering." Marcus looked around the gallery at the smaller pieces they'd created over the past months, each one containing fragments of Zixra's lost world. Songs, stories, scientific knowledge, personal memories. "That's why we're doing this here now, with witnesses from across the galaxy. Whatever happens, they'll understand what we were trying to achieve." Administrator Reeves approached them, her formal uniform pristine. "The containment fields are at maximum strength, and we've rerouted emergency power to the backup systems. We're as ready as we'll ever be." She gave Marcus a stern look. "Try not to blow up my station." "Wouldn't dream of it," Marcus smiled, then stepped forward to address the gathered crowd. "Distinguished guests, thank you for coming. What you're about to witness is more than an art exhibition. It's an attempt to preserve something precious, the cultural heritage of an entire civilization, encoded in quantum resonance patterns and stabilized through a fusion of human creativity and alien science." He moved to the central spire, placing his hands on its crystalline surface. "Art has always been about communication across boundaries, of time, of culture, of understanding. Today, we push those boundaries further than ever before." Taking a deep breath, Marcus closed his eyes and opened himself to the quantum fields that surrounded him. He felt Zixra join their consciousness to his, their shared purpose creating new harmonies in the quantum resonance. Around the gallery, the smaller pieces began to glow in response. The first transfer of memories hit him like a tidal wave, billions of lives, countless stories, all flowing through his consciousness too fast to comprehend. Marcus gritted his teeth, forcing himself to stay focused on the emotional core of each pattern, letting his human intuition guide the quantum fields into stability. Colors no human eye was meant to see filled the gallery. Sounds beyond normal space-time vibrated through the quantum matrices. The central spire blazed with inner light as it began correlating and stabilizing the patterns from all the smaller pieces, creating a unified whole greater than the sum of its parts. Marcus felt his consciousness expanding, touching minds across species and space. As the quantum resonance grew stronger, he experienced fragments of alien lives. First steps on new worlds, lost loves found again, victories and defeats, hopes and fears, all the infinite variety of existence captured in crystalline memory. Through it all, he held on to his artist's purpose, not just to preserve, but to make these memories accessible, relatable, meaningful to others. The quantum fields responded to his intent, creating layers of emotional resonance that transcended species boundaries. Just when he thought he couldn't maintain the connection any longer, something shifted. The quantum patterns locked into place, stabilizing across all the pieces simultaneously. The blinding light faded to a sustainable glow, and Marcus staggered back, supported by Zixra's crystalline form. The gallery erupted in a cacophony of alien voices and thoughts. Being after being approached the artifacts, experiencing the encoded memories for themselves. Marcus watched through tired eyes as ancient rivalries were forgotten in the face of shared wonder, as species that had never understood each other found common ground in the preserved emotions of a lost civilization. "It worked," Zixra whispered in his mind, their colors showing joy tinged with disbelief. "The patterns are stable. Our memories, our culture, they'll survive." "More than survive," Marcus corrected, watching as a group of young aliens from different species shared an encoded story, their various forms of laughter blending together. "They'll live on, growing and changing as others experience them. That's what art is supposed to do," not just preserve the past, but inspire the future. Administrator Reeves joined them, shaking her head in amazement. I don't suppose you'd care to explain exactly how you achieved this. Marcus smiled, running his quantum-stained fingers over the nearest crystal. It's simple, really. We stopped trying to force human creativity to conform to alien science or alien memories to fit human understanding. Instead, we created something new, a bridge between ways of thinking, a feeling of being. He gestured to the gathered crowd, now mingling freely, sharing experiences across species boundaries. Look around you. Art has always been humanity's greatest tool for building understanding. We just needed to think bigger. As the exhibition continued into the station's night cycle, Marcus found himself at the viewport, watching distant stars while aliens of all kinds experienced the memories he'd helped preserve. Zixra floated beside him, their crystalline form reflecting the starlight. What now? The alien asked. Marcus grinned, already feeling new ideas taking shape. Now we push the boundaries even further. After all, he gestured to the gallery full of living proof that art could bridge any gulf, heal any divide, preserve any memory worth keeping. We're just getting started. In the crystalline surfaces around them, quantum-encoded memories sparkled like captured stars, waiting to inspire generations yet to come. It wasn't just art anymore, or science, or even memory. It was something new, something that proved that humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy might not be its technology or its strength, but its endless capacity to create, to feel, and to help others do the same.